come up with this concept of this magical paper world, and inside this world there's a young girl who's walking along and discovering it as it gradually unfolds. We decided we would go with using green screen. With the green screen technique, you shoot your star up against a big green background that's all very evenly lit. So then afterwards in post you can remove the background, a process called keying, and you can knock out all the green, and as there's not any green in the sort of skin pigment, it leaves the person there perfectly intact, so you can then insert your own backgrounds. Keeping everything nice and sharp is very important. It's very difficult to knock out the background if there's blur, and in a lot of the scenes our star is skipping along and there's a lot of movement. So we actually brought in a treadmill which was all painted green as well, and we had our star on it skipping and running and getting all the movements, but she wasn't falling in and out of focus, so she stayed nice and sharp, so we got a real good key, nice sharp outline of her, so then when we drop in the backgrounds she really sits in there nicely and it's really believable. In the whole piece there's actually only one shot that doesn't have any kind of digital in it. It's just straight out of the camera of the boot landing in the puddle with the boats. It came with its own challenges because in the kind of narrative of the piece that takes part in very early morning, but we actually shot it sort of more into the afternoon. The sun was at the same level, but you can tell the light isn't quite right, so there's a lot of kind of grading and colour correction to bring up the warmth and tie it in with the rest of the piece, as well as to make it believable for that time of day. The challenges of coming up with these animals, there are a couple. One of the biggest ones is getting a very natural looking animal movement. A lot of these animals are kind of sold on their movement. There are limitations when you're working with a model that's supposed to look like it's made out of paper. It can't do all these organic movements, so you've got to find a compromise somewhere in the middle, but also really sell that animal movement. So as soon as you see it, you go, yeah, that's a peacock. Obviously you don't have things like eyes or facial expressions to show off sort of emotions and things like that, so it's all about the movement. Going back to the original storyboard, we had this idea of a fox that comes out of the shadows, runs up to quite busy traffic, in a sort of urban environment, still lots of late night traffic going through, and it wants to get across the road, and it goes for it once and stops, and kind of startled, sees a gap and just bolts, getting the movement and the motion of the fox to look foxy and really sell itself as a fox, because there's not a lot of detail in an origami model. So the first issue was watching lots of fox footage to get an idea of how a fox would do that. I took all that information into a 3D program, built the model and started to articulate the movement, and there's a separate challenge there because you don't have knee joints or lots of levels of articulation. You're kind of limited. Once I got a nice looking fox movement and the timing was starting to come together, I laid it over the footage of a busy nighttime street and composited that with lots of different shadows, and had a slightly sort of wet looking floor, so I put reflections in there and tried to make all those things work together. There's a few issues with timing initially. I had the fox looking left and right, and he was looking too soon and the car was not there yet, then he was looking too late and the car had gone, so lots of fine tuning until it was just spot on.